and I'm feeling good.
I'm going to read this story, but I'm going to leave out some key information at first.
Okay. We're playing the evidence.
Yes.
Cool.
Prosecutors drop sex case against teachers. Prosecutors have dropped charges Tuesday against a former teacher accused of having sex with a middle school student. The teacher offered deepest apologies to the 14-year-old and family. And then at the end there's a quote saying, "I am a strong Christian. I believe that God has a path for me, and this was just a bump in the road."
Okay.
Oh my God.
So,
a bump in the road?
So I'll let your assumptions sink in about that story, and now I'll show you a picture of the molester, who molested a 14-year-old boy.
Whoa!
This is Debra LaFave.
That's one
Well, she just
lucky
looks
little
like,
14-year-old. No.
She looks like Mary Kay Letourneau's little sister.
Who's that?
The other person.
Mary Kay Letourneau was the other woman who had an affair with one of her students. They eventually had a kid.
Went to jail.
She went to jail?
She had, I think, 2 kids with him.
And then they got together after she got out?
Yes, they're married now. Legally.
Yeah.
Legally.
This was accused. There's
No.
Was she convicted?
They dropped
the charges.
They dropped the charges.
The
boy, wait a minute. The 14-year-old boy told investigators he had sex with LaFave 3 times in 4 days in June 2004. One of those times was in a car while his 15-year-old cousin drove them around, he told authorities. He also said she performed oral sex on him multiple times, including once at her home, the documents said. I don't know if we made clear from Dennis's reaction, but she is hot.
Yes. hot.
Well, so is Mary Kay Letourneau.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's okay.
No, it doesn't mean it's okay, but the reason the charges were dropped was actually not because of the God stuff, but basically because the other person, because the guy refused to testify.
The 14-year-old?
The 14-year-old guy.
Oh, okay.
And let's see, it says here...
So they had no case, and so they...
In a written statement, Assistant State Attorney said that the trial was likely to be broadcast on cable television, raising concerns about the privacy of the boy LaFave was accused of molesting, and he would have been the prosecution's key witness. Now, call me crazy, but I'm not sure that the reason he wouldn't testify was because he was worried about privacy. I think the prosecutors might have been worried that his testimony would have been, Thank you.
Yeah, there was a bit of discussion about this on Bill Maher Friday night and on some other programs that I saw about whether or not it's okay to have this double standard.
Well,
if it had been a male teacher molesting a 14-year-old girl, the guy'd have been hammered.
Oh, boy.
And Jason Alexander made some good points that, it might not be right to let her off because there can be emotional damage for a boy, just as there can be for a girl. But we're looking a lot more at the physical aspect of it, and also with kind of a little bias. And no matter how much anybody really wants to admit it, and I have no problem admitting it, if I was 14 and she was my teacher and wanted to have sex, we'd have been having sex all the time. And I'd have been going, thank you, Jesus.
I think there's not a straight 14-year-old in the country who wouldn't jump at that.
Yeah. On the other hand, the real question is, we have a law, we have an age of consent, we have an age where we've decided that below this, you're not equipped to make those kind of decisions.
Right.
And if we're going to have a double standard, can we justify it?
And then again, it's like we don't know this person. Maybe very creepily religious. Who knows?
Apparently
that could be very creepy.
I can't say that much about it, but there is this bit at the end. She said she was taking a journalism course online, adding, "God has given me a great outlet to write, and I would hope I could reach people through writing. I am a strong Christian woman. I believe that God has a path for me, and this was just a bump in the road."
Yeah, that's creepy enough.
Well, I just wonder if she was any other faith, if it would have been considered just a bump in the road.
That's a good question. Of course,
a Wiccan old boy.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think she's
I worship the
behind bars
devil,
right now.
and I believe that he's going to lead me in the future, and this was just a bump in the road.
By the way, for our home audience who can't see what we're looking at, could somebody please Google up a picture of
Oh, I just told him we didn't have a link.
Debra LaFave, DebraLafave, and then just post that in the chat room so that you can all examine the evidence for yourself. Here you go.
That's right. The defense presents Exhibit A, the defendant.
Case dismissed.
We are so going to hell. Okay, anyway.
Yes. But still, I actually had this huge discussion with my wife this morning because I said I was bringing this up, and first she said, "What does this have to do with atheism?"
Mm-hmm.
Which mostly it doesn't.
It really doesn't.
But I thought it was
Well, what the hell?
It still
interesting
needs to be
anyway.
talked about.
It wouldn't be the first time that, and I like the fact that we focus on atheism.
Maybe there's a problem that the culture is too repressive about sex.
Mm-hmm. Who knows?
But on the other hand, if it was a 25-year-old guy messing with a 14-year-old woman, again, girl,
Big problems.
then what would we think?
I don't have any problem with us discussing things that aren't necessarily central to atheism, and I think it may be a good thing if we talk about social, political issues and discuss possibilities, rational options, and different ways of thought. To me, we're still promoting the same type of thing.
Yeah,
we're still demonstrating that atheists are just
that we
people
don't
too.
know.
Right.
Well, and also just a lot of our main cultural and social behaviors stem from our religious beliefs, whether we can like blatantly connect them or not. So.
Right. Like for instance, and this is fiction, but Gene Owl in the Clan of the Cave Bear series, which is like sort of a prehistoric sex romp in a way.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, it's sort of a semi-serious adventure story. You've read it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in their culture of cavemen, basically, they have this custom that when somebody gets old enough, which I assume is, first reaching sexual maturity, like 13,
Right.
an older, experienced person comes in and says, "Okay, I'm going to initiate you now," and they have a rite of passage, which is like a very solemn ceremony. They have no strings attached. There's no illusions that they're going to be in a long-term relationship. It's just, okay, here's your first time. Here's a person who's really good at it, and they're going to teach it.
Right.
I think as a culture we would frown on that happening today. Are we right?
Good question.
I don't know. You talk about double standards. We've demonstrated double standards here today, and I didn't realize it until just a second ago.
What's that?
And that's that the three of us have been doing this, and we're comfortable interrupting each other and having like a interjection thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when Emerald speaks, nobody interrupts.
Oh.
Yeah?
There is a double standard.
Emerald's the new
wait
kid.
a minute. You might not have noticed it, but I have been interrupted, and you might not have noticed
No,
it.
you haven't. You haven't been interrupted at all.
I've interrupted her at least once.
I've had this
Don't interrupt my truth with your facts.
I had this conversation when I think it was the new Chilean or maybe it was Peruvian president. She's a socialist and it's a female. Does anybody know about this?
No.
Yeah, she's a socialist,
Yeah.
atheist, single mother.
Yeah, she's a cool person. And my friend who I was talking to was saying, the real story here is, I'm not trying to bash women's rights, but the real story is the fact that she's a socialist. And I was saying, you would think that's the real story because you're not a woman and you don't understand how big of a deal that is, And so oftentimes you can be very blind to the whole androcentric ways that our culture promotes patriarchy.
Yeah,
So.
because there is sort of the same sort of bias against women politicians that there is against atheists. Not as much, but the same degree of things, which is people are going to choose a man over a woman most of the time.
I'd be thrilled if there were as many atheist senators and representatives as there are female.
Oh yeah, me
senators
too.
and
But on the other hand, not as many people run as out atheists because you can't be an in the closet woman.
Right.
Unless you're on one of those incredibly improbable Zeta movies where you tie your
one
hair
of
out.
the points I brought up is the only reason we have as many that we are as accepted as we are is that we don't have a big red A on our forehead, and that wouldn't be for adultery. That would be for atheism.
Right, but when you're
but a black can't hide his skin color.
when you're running for office,
and a woman can't hide her gender. So it's
and yet there are a lot more women and blacks in politics than there are
and it's
atheists.
taken them a lot of time and effort and a lot of organization and stuff to get there.
When you're in politics, even though you can ultimately hide something in your personal life, when you enter politics, somebody is going to dig up dirt on you. And unless you're completely silent all the time about atheism, then people will find out.
I'm feeling good.